Breaking the world's record in Detroit, Mark Tate in the Winston Eagle is looking for his first big win. But Chip Hanauer in the Miss Budweiser could be the spoiler of those plans, looking for another big win of his own. ESPN presents the RC Cola 1993 Unlimited Hydroplane Series. The third stop of this series, the Budweiser Regatta. Sponsored by RC Cola, race to the taste of RC Cola, me and my RC. And by T+, beat the daily grind, use T+, the engine treatment with DuPont Teflon. And by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that smooth taste, proud to be your Bud.
We're in beautiful Miami, Florida. This is Biscayne Bay, Marine Stadium, the tightest course the Unlimiteds will race on all year long. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Hendrick, along with Dick Crippen. And Dick, saltwater, you think they're going to bother him?
I think saltwater always bothers them. Mentally, it bothers them, that's for sure. However, so far during qualifying, they haven't had any problems at all. You mentioned about the short course, too, Jim, and I think it's important to note that last week up in Detroit, Mark Tate on the long course, 2.5 miles, went 170 miles per hour for an average speed on a lap. It'll be a lot less here, but there's a lot more driving involved, and again it was Mark Tate coming in at 149 miles per hour who set the record for this stadium course. It's going to be tight. They're going to have to know what they're doing. They have to be aware of where the boats are at every point in the course.
And the Circus, of course, cracking up in Detroit in that accident. They have the backup boat, but they're doing quite well. The regular boat will be ready for Evansville, which is our next race.
That's right, and this boat is the one that we've made famous in the opening to our show. The two boats that go over, the Circus is the boat that's racing here today.
And adding to the fact that Winston did check in at 170 in Detroit, which was a big record there and a record for all time, here the course record was also set by the Winston Eagle. They win the Winston Select the Lap Award with a record time on this course only of 149.220.
And that is the second week in a row that the Winston has been the top qualifier. Dick Crippen was in the pits earlier.
I think the Winston Eagle team's well prepared for this event. Like I say, we set a course record. We're proud of that, but we want to be in the winner's circle on Sunday. That's what we're here to do, is try and win a boat race, and hopefully we can put the Winston Eagle there.
One more thing, and that is that course record. That's pretty amazing, 149 on a course this tight.
We're pretty proud of it. We're about a mile an hour over the course record of last year, and it's something to be proud of. But again, look forward to Sunday.
This is a small saltwater course, and George Woods Jr., the driver of the Tide, he's raced here before. He talked about this course a few weeks ago in his office in Seattle.
Miami's one of those courses that is very small. It's very enclosed. There's not much room to maneuver around. You have to go in there heads up and have a lot of respect for the other drivers. There's no room in Miami to make a mistake. And if a guy makes a mistake, somebody else is probably going to pay with him. It's one of those courses that I think the drivers look out for each other.
The fans in Miami have their suntan lotion on. They're ready to go racing, so let's us go too.
All right, Heat 1A. We'll see the Winston Eagle in Lane 1 with Mark Tate. Boat owned by Steve Woomer, and of course he's the Winston Select Lap Award winner of this one. Circus with Dave Vilwalk. Ron Jones Jr., the owner. Miss T+ in Lane 3 with Steve David. Owner Jim Harvey. And Ed Cooper Jr.'s DOC Raidman with Mitch Evans will be on the outside.
They're coming around the tight turns here at Miami as they get ready to take the green flag for the start. They must be lined up across. The judges have to look down from the helicopter and such and say, okay, let them go. And they pass the word. There's the green flag. We're off and running. Winston Eagle is on the inside. We'll have the advantage going into the turn, but it's going to be a tough hold for him because it is a very tight course. You can see the looseness of Circus. As they come down around turn number 2, we see nothing but rooster tails, but it looks like something happened.
It looks as though they all bunched up there in the apexes of corner 1 and 2 with Winston and the Eagle on the inside. Look at, he's lost his tail, and there has been some damage to the Circus. Red flares are now going out. Red flares are going out. We have a boat on the beach.
This is a wild situation that we're going to have to sort out as we go, and we can take a look perhaps from upstairs and see exactly what happened. But the T+ is on the beach right now. Look at the nose, the front end of the Circus. It appeared that the Circus hit into the back end of the Winston. Now, we'll have to determine whether Winston actually slid out and across lanes or what happened there. But the T+, Stephen David, had no place to go. He was in his lane and apparently hit into the back end of the Circus Circus.
And you can see the entire tail section is off of the Winston Eagle. Let's go down the pit area now. Dick Crippen is with the driver of the Circus Circus, Dave Villwalk.
From your viewpoint in the cockpit, what in the world happened?
I beat the Winston into the first turn, and the Circus was set up just right. I lifted a little bit to make sure I could hold my arc, and apparently the other boat lost its purchase on the water, and it slid over and landed right in front of me. And you can see by the damage on the front of the boat that we just rammed right at the back of their tailpipe. When they hit, we hit them from behind, and then that blew us up in the air. And then Steve David in the T+ hit us in the right rear. After that, I felt that hit, you know, but hopefully he's okay.
After the last couple of weeks, you're happy to just be back on shore and with a repairable boat.
Again, if I was in an open cockpit, I wouldn't be there. I drove right up the tail of the Eagle. I got eagle feathers all over us.
One boat has been disqualified and fined, and we'll have that story for you. The RC Cola Hydro Series here in Miami in just a moment. Back here at Biscayne Bay, Jim Hendrick along with Dick Crippen. Dick's down the pitch right now to talk with T+ driver Steve David about the accident.
Steve, turn 1, Miami Marine Stadium, nothing new.
No, it's a real tight one, and I know all the guys are racing hard. There's no blame to be put. Just apparently, I guess, Winston hooked and went across the Circus, and then the Circus smashed into my left side and took out a sponson. But it just, you know, it happens at high speed. It's I can't blame Tate. He was just trying to win the race.
I think the Department of Environmental Services might want to talk to you about those trees you took out.
Yeah, when Circus hit me, we lost our steering, and all I saw was trees at 200 mile an hour. But we'll go replant some seedlings and make this a better earth when I leave it.
How about the boat? Can you replant that?
God, there's a lot of damage to that left sponson. I don't know if we'll have it ready or not for today. These guys will sure try, though, and try to get the T+ back in the water.
The unsung heroes of unlimited hydroplane racing, the crews themselves. The T+ crew, the Circus crew, and we're looking at the Winston Eagle camp, have to replace that whole tail. These guys are going to be ready. Of course, the restart, Winston Eagle cannot participate by the rules, and Mark Tate has been fined. Let's go down to the pits now, and Dick Crippen to talk with driver Mark Tate.
All right, Mark, you were right in the middle of all that. What happened out there?
Well, basically going into the first turn, I got into the corner real good with the Winston Eagle and got about to the apex and took a couple real big hops and really made the infraction, moved out probably to lane 2, 2.5, and then the boat hooked on me, and I recovered. I really couldn't tell what took place behind me, but you know, it was an unfortunate thing, but it's all part of racing, and it's just unfortunate that the Winston Eagle is the cause of it.
Okay, Mark, the main thing is you're all right. The boat hopefully can be repaired.
I think the Winston Eagle will be back out there. You know, hopefully the competitors that were in the heat will have the opportunity to get their boats back in racing form.
We're set to go with the restart of Heat 1A down to 3 boats. The Miss Circus, the T+, and the DOC Ray-Ban will all compete. It's Circus in lane 1, Dick, T+ in lane 2, and on the outside, the DOC.
The 2 inside boats were involved in that incident down in turn number 1 earlier, and they are both damaged boats. There's the green flag. Incidentally, you see the empty stadium behind there. There's plenty of fans here at the Miami Marine Stadium, but they're not in the stadium. The city of Miami is determining what to do with it. It's a condemned building at this point. They don't know whether it'll be standing this time next year or not. Miss Circus right now has the fans' attentions along the sideline. The pink and white boat is obviously dominating the field. Dave Villwalk, it always amazes me, Jim, how a driver can be in an accident, as Dave Villwalk was and had been the week before in Detroit, yet he gets right back into the boat, doesn't think twice about it, puts the pedal to the metal.
Well, they're a special breed, Dick, and if you look at that Circus, like you say, last week in Detroit, they were upside down and rolled the original boat. This is the backup boat. They won't get the number 1 boat ready until Evansville a couple of weeks from right now. And by the way, that empty stadium, it's been condemned as a result of that devastating hurricane here a little over a year ago.
Right now, the stadium course is hosting the unlimited hydroplanes, perhaps for the last time, maybe not. We certainly hope not, because we've got a lot of fine fans in the Miami area who love to come out and see them. There's Mitch Evans in the only piston-powered boat that's out here on the course today. Boy, this goes back a couple of generations to when it all started, those big aircraft engines. Everybody loves the sound of the original Thunderboats. Now they have the ultra high-tech sound of these boats. with the turbine-powered engines, and boy, they are exciting to watch.
As we complete lap number 2 of 3, the average speed is about 128.6 mile an hour for this boat. He's got it pretty much his own way. As we look at the T-Plus come very close to shore. In second place, Steve David driving.
And you can see a little bit of the tape dangling off of the T-Plus as Stephen David throws it hard into the turn. Now remember, the driver didn't even know whether that boat would be able to be repaired in time to get back into racing. Here it is on the restart, and that boat is back in. So it is taped together, screwed together, probably a couple of paper clips, and maybe a bobby pin or two in there too. But the boat is running. Steve David, great confidence in his crew, is under full power, but can't quite catch the Circus. But I look for that boat to improve the T-Plus as we go through the day.
They'll also have a brand new boat coming up in Evansville. Their brand new turbine as the checker flag goes out for the winner of the restart of Heat 1A, the Circus.
Let's take a look at the results from the Heat 1A restart. Circus first with 400 points, then the Miss T-Plus, the DOC Ray-Ban third, and Winston Eagle, as we told you earlier, disqualified.
Well, that was not a bad turnaround. Your crew put you back in and you won.
They're real professionals, I tell you. Without Dan Walters, Ron Jones, and the rest of the guys here, you know, they're the professionals that put major accidents like that back in a good boat, you know, safe boat.
When you have an accident like this, does it psychologically hurt you the next time out?
Not for me. It seems like just about every time out I've had some sort of accident here the last couple of races. So it's just real competitive racing with all the boats here, the T-Plus, the Winston, the Circus. But it's just, that's how it is. It's competitive, and you're going to see the altercations just like we see in NASCAR racing, for instance.
These Miami fans really get into their sports. As you can see, they're enjoying the unlimited hydroplanes here in Miami at Biscayne Bay today. But here's a question. What do arena football, NBA basketball, and Major League Baseball all have in common? I'll tell you what they all have in common. The Miami Sports and Exhibition Authority that has helped to bring all of these franchises to South Florida. They're an active group. They work real close with the ownership groups of all of these teams to get the Marlins of baseball, as well as the Miami Hooters of arena football. Of course, we can't forget the NBA. That's, of course, the Miami Heat. Now they've even added hockey to it all. It's a group that is very active in bringing sports to South Florida, the Miami Sports and Exhibition Authority. They even helped to stage an event rather close to our hearts. Don't you like that sight? And we'll be back with more of that sight and this one as the RC Cola Unlimited Hydroplane Series, the Miami Budweiser Regatta, continues in a moment. Welcome back to Miami, and we're getting ready for more racing. Dick Crippen along with Jim Hendrick. Let's talk about a boat that you haven't seen yet today, the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Jim?
They say sometimes always a bridesmaid, but never a bride. But in this case, you're lucky to get invited to the wedding at all. But this guy has really improved his boat, the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Mikey, what have you done to go so fast?
We would like to know that. We did a number of things this winter. Changed some of the skid fin and the rudder assembly parts and the sponson changes. Converted the Bs to C motors and the propellers. We've got new propellers this year. So somewhere between all that, the combination came together and the boat's running real well.
I have a feeling if you see an opening, you're going to grab it. You're going to take a checker flag.
Yeah, we're really hungry. We want this one. We've been second a number of times in the past. Second to third so far this year. We want that first place.
And as we look at our lineup, in lane number 1, it'll be the U8, the Tide boat, George Woods Jr. driving for Bill Worcester, the owner. Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser, the U1 with Chip Hanauer in the boat. And the U6, the man you just met, Mike Hansen, and the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, Bob Hughes is the owner rep. Here they come, and there's the green flag. They are off and running. Right off the bat, the Miss Budweiser, Chip Hanauer, throwing it hard into the turn. That shot gives you a good angle on how those boats actually set up for the turn. They slide through a lot like the old dirt racers used to do on the dirt tracks around the Midwest and such. The Miss Budweiser out in the lead. The Tide boat is now in second, but he's being challenged on the outside by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes.
This Budweiser, winner of the Gold Cup at Detroit last week with 5 perfect heats, looking to continue his winning ways today as he comes around to complete lap number 1 at 136.3 mile an hour, Chip Hanauer at the wheel.
And there's Mike Hansen on his left, and he's trying to close that gap between himself and first place. Chip Hanauer looking at the rooster tail of the Miss Budweiser. It gets closer and closer. As a matter of fact, he has to watch out for that rooster tail. They say that it is the equivalent of 7 tons of water. So you want to stay on that outside rim. If you get caught caught on the inside. We saw the accident earlier in turn number 1. It can be devastating.
Take a look at the scoop, Dick, right over the driver's head. That's extended for this race. It wasn't that extended for Detroit, where we had fresh water. Same with the Kellogg's, because they want to have it extended so that the water does not get into the turbines. The salt water will churn up, turn to rock salt, and hurt these engines. They have to protect them.
They actually can freeze the blades of the turbine engine, but no freezing on these boats right at the moment. They're operating in perfect form. There's a great shot of the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes riding in second place. That boat out of Madison, Indiana, will be up there in just a couple of weeks. Folks of Madison, Indiana invest in that boat, some 13,000 of them, so it really is a lot of city pride. This boat, the Miss Budweiser, dominating on the circuit so far, has had a great run here in Miami. He has really only lost one race, and that was the one in Louisville, Texas, so far. The Tide boat riding in third place, a very close race for second place. He'd like to get up on the inside. He's trying to get within the rooster tail of the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes at the moment. The Miss Budweiser, Chip Hanauer, coming home for the win.
At an average winning speed for the 3 laps of 135.519. Frosted Flake second, the Tide third. Let's go down to the winner's dock in the Budweiser pits and Dick Crippen.
Well, Chip, it was nice and pretty going down into that turn after what we saw in the first heat.
Yeah, the 3 drivers in our heat, we got together after seeing what happened in the first heat and decided we were going to get through the first corner, be gentlemen, and when we get them lined up at the back chute, then we'd go racing. It helps and you can see what happens. It kind of sobers everybody up, and everybody did a good job in our heat.
Yeah, Bernie, we were commenting about the speeds and this course. It is a very tight course for these high speeds.
Yes, it is, and we really realized that this week, that we're kind of running faster than we've ever run here, and we're going to have to drop down. If we're going to run, we're going to have to run 3 boats, or we just can't run here in the Marine Stadium.
Also competing for a good crowd that's on hand here at Miami's Marine Stadium for this third stop of the RC Cola High Plains Series. It's the Pro Tunnel Boat Tour that began 2 weeks ago before enthusiastic crowds at Louisville Lake near Dallas, Texas. Miami here is the second stop for this 93 tour, and it's their first visit to South Florida. The series will conclude with a weekend of competition at beautiful Cypress Gardens in the mid-October area. The SST 45 class, one of the largest racing groups of the American Powerboat Association. The drivers race in 12-foot boats and speeds up to 85 miles an hour, and they always provide exciting competition. They're powered by 44.9 cubic inch Evinrude or Johnson outboard motors, and the entire combination of boat, motor, and driver only weighs 675 pounds. And you know what? Number 423 here, Dina Murphy, is also in the... There she is. She's the only woman driver in the SST 45 class. Entertaining the crowds here in the checker flag and the champions, Bob Austin, has won the North American Championship race here at Miami today. We have more action coming up as the Unlimited Hydroplanes get ready to compete in the RC Cola Hydroplane Series Budweiser Regatta here in Miami. We'll be back in just a moment. Well, we're taking a look at the west end of the course at Biscayne Bay, where we have a spectator fleet. There was history made in the Gold Cup last week in Detroit. Dick Crippen has the story with Bernie Little.
When it comes to hydroplane racing, the name Miss Budweiser comes right up there. And, Bernie, I have to tell you, the win in Detroit had to be a very special one for you.
It really was. To break that record of 8 Gold Cups, that's 9 for Chip and 9 for me and the Miss Budweiser. So that was a real treat. And we just hope to repeat that here today.
Well, Bernie, we might remind everybody, too, that Chip had 7 straight Gold Cups in that run of 9. And a guy that would like to get a Gold Cup one of these times is Tide driver George Woods.
The title of Mr. Consistency is a lot like Miss Congeniality in a beauty contest, but not for George Woods because he has been a winner. In fact, George, you've won on this course.
Right here in 1988, driving the Old Boy Alberto, we went with a #1 place finish.
What's it going to take for the Tide boat to get that little extra oomph to be a real contender for first place?
I'll tell you, Dan High, our crew chief, and the whole crew, they've been standing nights and nights trying to figure this out, and I think we're going to have it this weekend.
All right, and we're getting ready now for the start of Heat 2A. The Tide boat will be included there. Let's give you the lanes. Lane 1 is the Winston Eagle. Lane 2, Miss Circus Circus. Lane 3 is the Tide. And Miss T Plus will be in Lane 4. So we've got some boats that had damage. As a matter of fact, as we take the green flag to start this race, only one of the boats was not involved in that first turn accident in the first heat of the day, and that is the Tide boat, George Woods. So let's see if he can put it to it. Lane 1 is the Winston Eagle. Lane 2, the pink and white boat, is the Circus Circus. It looks like Circus Circus slid into the Rooster Tail. It looks like he slowed down a little bit. He may have hit some of the water on the Rooster Tail from the Tide boat. He's under power, though, and he's got the pedal back down to the middle, so let's see how they come out of the turn. It looks like the T-Plus boat is going to be the challenge on the outside to George Woods in the Tide. Winston Eagle now riding in third.
Well, he lost some ground, the Circus Circus did. It looks like he slid over and almost collided and corrected at the last moment, but it cost him some speed. As we look at the T-Plus coming around to complete lap number 1, his speed just a little over 128 mile an hour for the average lap.
We better remind everybody that this was the boat that was damaged and on the beach in the first heat. They've got that boat repaired now, and they've got the tape all battened down. In the restart of Heat 1A, you can actually see the tape flying loose on the hull of the boat. But Stephen David, with great confidence in his crew, is doing a great job on the course now. The backstretch in Miami, Winston Eagle now in third place. Mark Tate, the driver of that boat. In between those two, the Tide boat just went dead. The Tide boat went dead in the water. It does look, though, Jim, like he's trying to restart. We can see heat coming off the back of the boat.
Well, I'll tell you, that'll cost him second position as the Winston Eagle will move up, and the Circus Circus will move up to third. So you have the leader is the T-Plus. Second place is now the Winston. Third is the Circus Circus, and the Tide is trying to restart, and I believe he's going to do it.
A good ride for Stephen David, a little bit loose as he comes down into the close turn. Now, this is an unusual turn. 1 and 2 on the Miami course are surrounded by a beach, so the water actually comes back off the beach and it roughs it up. As you can see, Mark Tate power the Winston Eagle through. He bounced it a little bit as he came in, hitting those rollers coming off the beach.
130.1 mile an hour on lap number 2 for T-Plus, so Steve David has kicked it up a little bit.
Well, there he's going to lap the Tide boat of George Woods. That boat went down in mid-race, but Stephen David clear ahead to the finish line. The checkered flag is out, and it's waving for him. Stephen David, in a boat that was damaged in Heat 1A, takes the win in Heat 2A. That's got to make him and his pit crew feel an awful lot better. We'll be back with more action from the RC Cola Unlimited Hydroplane Series, the Miami Budweiser Regatta, in just a moment.
Back here on Biscayne Bay in Miami, Florida, I'm Jim Hendrick along with Dick Crippen. Let's look at the results of Heat 2A just held. The winner was the T-Plus. Winston Eagle second, Circus Circus third, the Tide fourth. Let's go down to the winner's dock.
Steve, I know that had to make up a little bit anyway for what happened earlier.
Yeah, for this team, I mean, they rebuilt a boat that had run into the woods earlier at about 200, and I mean, the sponson was off, the rudder was bent, the trim bent, proper shot. This T-Plus team is just so awesome, and you get in that cockpit and you got all that energy, it's hard not to win.
We talked to Chip a little earlier when he won, and he said everybody kind of got together and realized that that first accident kind of sobered everybody else up to what they were doing, and I think it showed in this heat.
Yeah, I mean, these boats are going so fast now, you've just got to be conscious of that, and it's just really difficult at 200 miles an hour to hold a perfect lane in a turn. Yeah, that was a great race. I got to congratulate George Woods. He was really giving me a great race, and the Tide was for a couple of laps there, and wonderful guys to run against. You can run neck and neck with George, know it's a clean race, and know the best boat's going to win at that time.
All walks of life draw fans to the hydroplane wars, and one is actor David Keith. You may remember him as one of the stars of An Officer and a Gentleman.
Well, I think we have a convert. I think we've got a brand new Unlimited fan. David Keith, what do you think of it?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, you watch these on TV, and, well, you know, it's fun watching it on TV, but when you get here, the speed is amazing. How are these boats?
And this is from a guy who's been in some pretty precarious situations, as I remember it.
Yeah, a few every now and then, but nothing like this.
This is pretty spectacular, and when you get down around it and you realize what goes into these boats and what these drivers have to do, I mean, that's where you really get the feel for it. And you got to see them really close up.
Yeah, each driver told me about their boats, and I really like the one with the Rolls-Royce engine. I like the old piston engine. The sound's better too. Who was it? Was it you that were saying they were going to put stereo speakers on these and run the piston engine sounds for the crowd? I think that's a great idea. All the jet boats ought to have that on there.
Well, the fans are waiting now for the action of Heat 2B, and we're about to start that heat here on this mile and 2/3 course. In lane 1, it'll be DOC Ray-Ban, Miss Budweiser, and the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes boat. And look at this beautiful view of the Miami Marine Stadium area on Biscayne Bay. As they come around for the start, let's go back to Dick Crippen.
A great crowd on hand as they hear the roar of the Thunderboat, the one big boat with the piston engines, the DOC Ray-Ban. There is the green flag, and they are off and running On the far outside is the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, Mike Hansen, but he's being challenged by the Miss Budweiser, and the Miss Budweiser, Chip Hanauer, in lane 2, takes it away. He has got himself the lead on the back stretch. But there's Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, again trying to come up on the outside. And again, we remind you, that boat owned by the city of Madison, Indiana, not the city per se, but the citizens, some 13,000 strong. They do love that boat, and it is running very well this year. I expect some big things from that Kellogg's Frosted Flakes boat. He switches to the inside lane.
As we look at the leader, Miss Budweiser, coming down to complete lap number 1, it's going to be a fast one, 135.539. And look at the way that boat is riding, Dick.
Jim, you've described it so many times to the fans that it's 9 square inches, the size of a man's handkerchief on either side of the boat, off the sponsons, the trailing edge of the sponsons, and the bottom half of the propeller. And a great shot like that from our Rusty Pelican camera. That's located right outside the Rusty Pelican restaurant here on Biscayne Bay. I want to thank Mike Reimers and his great staff. As you look at another shot from that camera, they have been tremendous help to us here in Miami. There's the Frosted Flakes boat, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. What a paint job. I don't know whether the paint job made it go faster. I think it was the engine work, but it appears to be the paint job.
Well, that growling Tiger is pushing the Budweiser. He forced him in the first lap to go over 135 miles an hour. Now it seems like Mike Hansen is going to sit in the slot and take second place points.
He wants to get the points to move into the final heat of the day, which will determine the championship out here. Chip Hanauer now has himself an easy ride out in first place. Another great shot on the turns in 1 and 2 as the Frosted Flakes boat goes through for Kellogg's. There's the Miss Budweiser leading it all, and you saw him come out of a rooster tail. That was a rooster tail on the front stretch from the DOC Ray-Ban boat that you see right there. And again, we remind everybody, that's the only piston-powered boat in the field this race, and that is a lot of memory for a lot of the fans. The checkered flag is out. Chip Hanauer claims another victory here in Miami as he continues his trek toward the championship heat later this afternoon. Miss Budweiser first, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes second, DOC Ray-Ban third, RC Cola Unlimited Hydroplane Racing, the Miami Budweiser Regatta. More action coming up after this. Back in Miami, Florida, Dick Crippen along with Jim Hendrick, and we'd like to take a moment here to say goodbye to a good friend of boat racing, Mr. Mike Gordon. Mike passed away May 28th, 1993. He was a big supporter of boat racing, not only as an active participant and a sponsor of boats, but also right here at the Miami Marine Stadium, where he contributed some funds and certainly was a backer of unlimited racing. We'd like to say goodbye, Mike. Thanks for all the good memories. Now let's go down to the pit area. Jim Hendrick is standing by with the guy with the only piston boat in the entire field.
If you had any advantage in the DOC Ray-Ban, what would it be, Mitch?
Saltwater.
Saltwater used to be the thing, though, and all the turbines used to have problems. I think they've improved and overcome some of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, over the years, they've learned what it takes to filter the salt out, and they run stronger and stronger all the time.
Is there a turbine in your dreams?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and it's something that if the right opportunity comes along, we could either convert this boat or possibly build another one.
Well, the Miami crew is ready to go. Everybody's sitting on the sidelines, some getting a little bit damp, as this little pup is doing. Let's talk a little bit about this area. You know, this is a great area to race. It's got the beautiful tropical sunsets. It's got a great, great skyline. A lot of international business done in the Miami area. Business people are thriving here in Miami. As a matter of fact, you heard about a lot of damage from that hurricane. Let me tell you, this city has bounced back unbelievably. We congratulate all of them. The beaches, they weren't destroyed. As a matter of fact, fans are back out enjoying the beaches right here at the Miami Marine Stadium and the surrounding area. There's an awful lot to do in Miami. The accommodations are always the best. The fantastic tourist trade comes down to Miami all the time and enjoys all sorts of different scenery. You can take it alone, you can go sailing, you can have just about any kind of a time you want to have down here. As a matter of fact, it is a port, and a very major port, not only for fishing, but for cruising and for getting to the islands. You can get there by air if you'd like with Chalk Airlines, or take one of the many cruise ships that leaves the Miami area. South Beach, now there's an area that's really come back. South Beach is the in place for the evening. All sorts of great activities from Coconut Grove all the way over to the beaches. Miami has definitely been a city on the move, and it continues to grow.
It's a hot, humid day here in Miami. Some of the fans cooling off. One of the guys who was hot last week was Chip Hanauer. He won the Gold Cup.
Chip, 1 week ago, you were celebrating a very momentous time in your life, I would imagine.
Very momentous, I think. The 2 Gold Cups that now mean the most to me, I think, are my first one and my 9th one. I had such respect for Bill Muncy, both as a boat racer and as a human being, that to eclipse any mark he would have set really is dear to me.
And of course, lots of attention with that Sports Illustrated article on perhaps one of the greatest drivers of all time, Chip Hanauer. Now let's take a look at the action for Heat 3A. Here's the way they'll line up. It'll be DOC Ray-Ban, lane number 1. Miss Budweiser in lane 2. Winston Eagle takes the 3rd slot, and on the outside, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes.
DOC Ray-Ban leading him down on the inside. The actual pace boat is Mike Hansen and the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes on the outside. The starter looks him over, and there they go. Green flag is flying, and they're off and running. The Miss Budweiser in lane number 2, trying to get the advantage into turn number 1. Boy, he really slams that boat into the turn. Meanwhile, he has to look to his right rear view mirror, and he can see the Winston Eagle. Mark Tate is coming up hard on the outside of the Budweiser.
Whoa, did you see Mark Tate shoot out of there in that lane 2? And he pushes the Budweiser just a little bit faster. Chip will have to put the pedal down, and he's averaging right now near 135 miles an hour. You see that second place boat in the rooster tail of the number 1 place boat here, the Miss Budweiser.
And we remind you there was damage to the Winston Eagle in that accident that happened in the very first heat out here today. So they have the new wings on the boat, as you can see there, and they're holding strong. But you know, you got to wonder if the driver doesn't kind of think a little bit about what else might have happened on that accident. At any rate, obviously those thoughts are not in the mind of either Chip Hanauer or Mark Tate at this point. Chip Hanauer, incidentally, as he goes into turn number 1, he's really powering that wheel. He's throwing the boat in there. It's a violent reaction.
And you can thank the design of today's unlimited hydroplanes to be able to do that, Dick, because in the olden days, without the canopy or the 5-point harness to retain them, they could be out of the boat.
They really could. The G-force within the boat is pretty great. There you saw the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. There's the DOC Ray-Ban, driver Mitch Evans. He is now riding in 4th place on the course. The lead boat coming down with the checkered flag waving is Chip Hanauer in the Miss Budweiser, holding on to a perfect record so far today. He has won every event that he has entered.
And if you had the Gold Cup last week with 5 straight heat victories, he's got 8 in a row in the checkered flag department. Winston Eagle 2nd, Kellogg's 3rd, DOC Ray-Ban overall 4th. We'll have action of the final preliminary heat of the day, Heat 3B, with the T-Plus Circus and the Tide after this timeout.
Unlimited hydroplane racing action in Miami, Florida, as we welcome you back. Let's go down and talk to a winner. Chip Hanauer, winner of the last heat.
Well, 3 happy guys down here at the Budweiser dock. And first of all, Wayne Heisinger from Blockbuster, owner of the Florida Marlins baseball team. You've been doing pretty good yourself.
Yeah, but we can't go this fast. I mean, this is terrific.
What about that first corner? You have a problem there, Chip?
Had a big problem. We went into what we call rudder flutter. The steering wheel just gets ripped out of your hands. I cannot describe the amount of vibration or the intensity. But then I could back down a little bit and keep it under that speed where it hit. So we got through it okay, but it wasn't easy.
What do you do to correct that now for the next final heat, Bernie?
Well, you know the Budweiser crew, they'll get it handled. They'll change the rudders, and it'll be ready to go for him for the final.
Well, as they set to work on the rudders, let's you and I get set for Heat 3B. Now, there are going to be 3 boats that'll be in this heat. The Miss T-Plus in lane 1, Miss Circus in lane 2, and the Tide boat, winner of another heat here today earlier, in lane number 3. And that's the way they come down for the start. You can see the Miss T-Plus trying to get the advantage on the inside. Meanwhile, it's a little cat and mouse game as the green flag flies. George Woods Jr. on the outside trying to take advantage of that outside groove. He doesn't have to slow up as much to ride the boat through the turn. He's going to try to take the lead. He has the lead going into the turn. Let's see how they look coming out of turn number 2. It is the Tide boat. George Woods Jr. is leading. Circus is trying to catch him in the rooster tail, and the Tide boat now is your leader. He's got to watch for the other challenges. Circus on the outside. On the inside in second place is the Miss T-Plus, Stephen David.
Even if he does win, Dick, he'll get 400 points, and he still will not qualify for the final. He's going to have to run in the last chance heat, where the winner of the last chance heat does make the final field. Now, of course, points are important because the top 3 point getters coming up in Honolulu at the Outrigger Hotel race, they're going to have the old dual shootout, and only the top 3 point getters of the year get the run for that old dual shootout top prize money.
Right now, the Tide crew and driver would feel very good if this boat could take the win in this, though, even though it won't qualify him for the championship heat. It will give him a good bit of momentum going into that last chance heat. It'll be coming up next. George Woods in the Tide boat, and we've watched that boat get better and better in this race as we have watched it from the start to now. But look at this. Look at the tape flying loose on the T+. Now, Stephen David obviously cannot see that tape. You and I can see it in the camera shot. He's got to be a little bit careful there. That could pop open a hole in the sponson and start ripping it apart.
The T+ crew, hats off to them. They'll put it back together with hairpins, chewing gum, and 200-mile-an-hour tape.
You've got to give him a lot of credit because that boat really did have some damage from hitting the beach earlier in the accident in turn number 1. What a great shot. Looking underneath from stem to stern of that beautiful Tide boat. Another great shot of that funny nose. And that is not really the way the boat's designed on the Circus, but that happened in the first heat when he hit into the back of the T+. That boat, incidentally, is riding without one of the rear tiplet wings, so he's got to be a little bit careful there. I'm sure it affects the handling. That boat has really come back in. We talked about the T+ crew. Hats off also to the Circus crew. They had a lot of damage on it, not to mention the damage they had in the boat last week. There you can see that tape. They call it 200-mile-an-hour tape until they top 300. Then it becomes 300-mile-an-hour tape, and so on up. Right now, though, a boat without any tape on it at all, doing a great job. George Woods Jr. getting the checkered flag and coming home the winner.
So here's the way they finish. 1, 2, 3, the Tide, Circus, and T+. Let's go down to the winner's dock.
Well, George, I guess it's to those who wait, good things can come.
Oh, I'll tell you, it's been just a thrash for the Tide race team all weekend long. It's been a little bit off the pace, and then I screwed up, had a little bit of a driver error down there and slid right into Steve David's skid fin water in a previous heat, took ourselves out. Now it's going to be a real struggle trying to get into the final.
All right, but the boat ran well, and I think that's got to give you a lot of confidence in the boat as well as in yourself to come out with a win like that.
Yeah, I've got all the confidence in the world in the Tide race boat and the Tide race team, and I'll tell you, we're going to come out here in the consolation heat, and we're going to try to take that and see if we can't get ourselves up in the final and, get some points and put some things on the board here for the rest of the group.
Now let's take an inside look at what makes these unlimited hydroplanes tick with the T+ Performance Corner. This week, we feature driver Chip Hanauer.
You're going to notice that the Miss Budweiser looks different at this particular race, and that's because it's a saltwater race. We have to do everything we can to protect the engine from ingesting salt water. That's usually the most difficult when the boat is struggling to get up on plane, going from stop to up and running. That's because the water comes off the front of the boat and is ingested into this big inlet. So what we've done is we've added this big, long snout to it. That way the water that comes off the front of the boat can't get into the inlet. In a freshwater race, that inlet is right here. All of this effort and expense has gone to protect this, the inlet of the engine. This is the inlet all the way around. As salt water comes in here, it coats the blades that are in this part of the engine. This is called the compressor. It's a series of fans that move air to the back of the engine. If salt gets in there, it immediately crystallizes, adheres to those blades, and disturbs the airflow through the engine. When that airflow is disturbed, the engine overheats and is virtually destroyed.
We're getting close to the winner-take-all championship heat in the Arsencola Hydroplane Series, and we'll have it for you in just a moment.
Back in Miami, Florida, Dick Crippen along with Jim Hendrick. And Jim, we get ready now for the last chance heat. And for the first time in a long time, the last chance is the last chance for some pretty top boats.
Yeah, the Tide and the Winston Eagle join the DOC Ray-Ban, and there you see the lineup. The Winston Eagle and the Tide will try now to win this heat because the winner will fill out the final field.
And only one boat will advance. So as we look at the field taking the green flag, Tide is on the inside. DOC Ray-Ban is in the middle lane. And on the far outside, it is the Winston Eagle, Mark Tate. And again, that is a boat that was damaged earlier today. He's had a little bit of problem with it since. Let's see if he can hold it together and make things go for him this time around. Coming out on the back stretch, he's doing a good job.
Yes, he is. And look at the Tide now. Sneak up on the inside. George Woods won the last heat. And as we said, did not have enough going for him to get in the final. He must win this 3-lap sprint called the last chance.
And it is a last chance as the Winston Eagle gets airborne. waves the wings just a little bit at the crowd and then comes back down. The Tide boat really forcing them to keep the power on, and this is where the competitors really have to trust each other. They're driving very close at very high speed, and on water things slip and slide, as we found out in the first heat, but so far these guys are holding their lane beautifully.
Let's point out to our audience that in the straightaways, these boats, on some of the longer shoots, when they approach 200 mile an hour or better, they're traveling the length of a football field from goalpost to goalpost in 1.1 second.
Which averages out to about 300 feet a second. Wow, they are really moving along, and the Tide boat is moving in second place right at the moment. But you can see the spray coming off the Winston Eagle. He's that close. He's within the rooster tail range. Winston Eagle, though, coming down the front straightaway, sees the checkered flag, and the Winston Eagle will advance now to the final championship heat of the day.
As we look at the Rusty Pelican, where one of our cameras is located, I want to thank that gang at Rusty Pelican for being so cooperative so that we could give you these good shots down that back chute. Here's the final field. Kellogg's with Mike Hansen will be in lane 1. Budweiser will be in lane 2 with Chip Hanauer at the wheel. Lane 3 will be Miss Circus Circus, Dave Vilwalk driving. In lane 4, it'll be the Miss T+, Steve David, the jockey there. And on the outside will be the Winston Eagle with Mark Tate. In fact, Winston Eagle will be trailing, has to stay back. Only 4 up front with 1 trailer. That's the Winston Eagle.
Looks like it's going to be a good start. They want them in a line as they come across the start-finish line, and it's going to be the green flag. It flies for the final heat, the championship here in Miami. On the inside, the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Watch them throw the boats into the turn. See how they go sideways like that? And look at 2 of them almost coming side by side, deck to deck, but they managed to hold them off by inches. And that was the Circus Circus boat, Dave Vilwalk. But look at him now. Dave Vilwalk leads as they go down that back stretch.
It's Vilwalk in the Circus Circus. First place, second place. Budweiser on the inside is moving up. Next lead, Budweiser in third. You saw the T+ in second. We've got a Donnybrook. And you know, this is a 5-lapper. All the preliminary heats were 3. This is 5 and winner take all.
But as they came out of turn number 4, it was the Budweiser on the inside, and we have said time and time again, the boat on the inside actually runs a lesser course. There's lesser distance to cover on the inside or tight to the pins. Budweiser took full advantage of it, and now Chip Hanauer in the Miss Budweiser is the lead boat. Second place is the Circus Circus. T+ riding up there in third. There you see the wave action as the waves come back off, and we can see that one of the boats, Winston Eagle, has gone dead on the course. Mark Tate having more engine problems. You saw the other boats pass him. Second place, Circus Circus, the lead boat, Miss Budweiser.
You know what a competitor Mark Tate is, and Steve Woomer and that whole crew from Winston Eagle. You bet with him trailing, he was giving it all he had to try to get up in the front line and something let go in the engine housing.
Well, it was a good effort by Mark Tate, no question about it. He took that last chance heat and he got himself in position to go for the championship. He at least got into the field. Little change of lane there for the Circus Circus boat. He dove inside, trying to get the inside run on the Miss Budweiser. Look at the amount of water that those rooster tails throw high in the air into the Miami skies. Just a tremendous amount of power being developed by these boats.
Water spray comes up 2 ways, Dick. Right now, as he's in the straightaway, comes off the prop, and only half of it bites the water. When they're in the turn, that big skid fin hooks the boat, holds it into the arc, and that throws another rooster tail.
We have talked all day long about the tape coming loose on the T+, and they keep replacing it, and it keeps coming loose because of the tremendous, tremendous pressure that boat takes in these turns. You can see how the waves kind of break over the front end of that pickle fork on the front of the boat, and it loosens that tape up, but they're keeping it on there long enough to keep the boat right now in third place. The leader right there is the Miss Budweiser, Chip Hanauer, and now the boat seems to have settled down. It was a little bit rough early on, but now he's found his groove. The boat is settling beautifully. He's got himself in very good position.
Well, there it is, Mark Tate watching as a spectator as the boat's now complete. Lap number 4, and as we look at our leader, you talk about a groove, he's out in smooth water. The guy in the front gets the smoothest ride.
Chip Hanauer throws the boat into turns 3 and 4. Now, again, we had talked about Chip earlier, how he was forcing the boat in there. He called it rudder flutter and said that he really had to fight the steering wheel to hold on to it. Obviously, they've corrected that problem, and he's getting a very smooth ride through. Good job by Dave Vilwalk holding second place. Here's going to be a great shot of the T+ as he comes into the turn. You see all the rooster tail water flying from the boats ahead of him. He completes his turn. He is getting a little bit rougher ride back in third place.
And in fourth place, it is the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes with Mike Hansen driving from Madison, Indiana, where a couple of races from now we'll be there on the Ohio River.
And boy, that boat does get a standing ovation every time it takes to the Ohio River in Madison, Indiana. Still a good, solid lead by the Miss Budweiser team. You know, amazingly enough, none of the turbine engines, as far as we know, because we don't know what the problem is with Mark Tate yet, did not have problem with the salt water, especially the Miss Budweiser. Makes it a perfect day. There's the green flag. Bernie Little celebrating on the dock. Chip Hanauer making it a perfect day. Every race that he entered, he won. We are going to see the atmosphere and the fun of a winning dock when we return to Miami, Florida for the Miami Budweiser Regatta and the RC Cola Unlimited Hydroplane Series.
Back here in Miami's Marine Stadium, here's your final field and the way they placed. Miss Budweiser the winner, Circus second, T+ third, Kellogg's fourth. The Winston Eagle did not finish. Let's go down to Dick Crippen on the winner's dock.
Well, Chip, I guess this is the way to end a good day.
This is the best way to end a good day, and I'm so proud of my associates because 2 weeks in a row we haven't been the fastest guy on Saturday night. We've gone into the race thinking, you know, we can't do it, and they just stay with it and they stay with it, and by the time race day comes, look who's in the winner's circle.
Bernie, this was one that you really wanted.
I really did. I didn't want to tell Chip how bad I wanted it because, you know, this is my second home in Miami. I've lived here since '49.
He says that about every race. He wants them all.
I want them all, but you know, well, that's 2 out of 3, so we're going to keep up the good streak, and Chip's driving hard and driving good, and the Budweiser crew is ready for him.
And Chip's having fun?
I'm having a lot of fun, and win, lose, or draw, I'm really glad that I'm here, and I thought a lot about that last night, and I want my associates to know that I'm just happy here because of the people they are, not necessarily because we're winning. Winning's fun, but I'm just glad to be here.
Here's the season tally for the first 3 races. Miss Budweiser with a 1,500-point lead over Kellogg's, who's moved up by about 6 points into second place over the third place tied, and the 3 top boats race for the O'Doul Shootout in Honolulu. If you want to know more about unlimited racing, contact the commission office at 414 Pontius Avenue North, Suite C in Seattle, or call them at 206-467-1368.
And so today's action comes to a close. We have to dedicate this race to the crews, another demolition derby.
It really was out there. It was wild and crazy. Miss Budweiser sitting right here. I think they have the easiest job of all. This is one boat that didn't get damaged out here today, but just about everybody else came out with at least a nick or a scrape. Some of them some pretty heavy damage, but they all managed to finish. Now they got a little time to get things together for the next race.
Well, the next stop will be Evansville, Indiana. We should see a brand new Miss T+, and also a repaired #1 boat for Circus.
Yeah, that's going to make a big difference, and that boat was very competitive, and we're looking forward to the new T+ because of all they've done on that one. So I just think we're adding to the field. It's getting deeper and deeper.
So, as I said, next stop, Evansville, Indiana, for the Budweiser Thunder on the Ohio. We'll all be there. On behalf of Dick Crippen, I'm Jim Hendrick. So long.
The Miss Budweiser, winner of the 3rd stop on the RC Cola Unlimited Hydroplane Series in Miami, Florida. The Budweiser Regatta has been sponsored by RC Cola. Race to the taste of RC Cola. Me and my RC. And by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that smooth taste. Proud to be your Bud. Promotional consideration has been provided by the Jockey Club, Miami's most beautiful private club with condos, swimming pools, tennis club, and yacht club. For membership information, call 305-893-3344. This event has been sanctioned by the American Powerboat Association. This has been a production of Diamond P Sports in association with ESPN.